Hello everyone! This is Katie Colleen here. Welcome back, Colleen Clan. Or if you're new, then come join the family for a complete remake of my Supergirl cosplay. That's right, I am starting over from scratch. So I will be remaking my crop top and skirt version of Supergirl. I originally made this back in 2019. And when I made this, I just wasn't happy with it. I felt like it was kind of hastily made and it was just kind of like a scrap busting project. I only wore it once and literally never again. I really wanted to come back to this cosplay, start over with, more experience, better materials, better techniques, and hopefully make something I'm actually happy with. Now, if you're looking for a detailed step-by-step tutorial, you can check out the video I made back in 2019. All of that information is still good. It's still very thorough. So this video is really gonna be more of a work vlog sort of thing where I'm just gonna be detailing everything that I'm doing different in this version 2 remake. First of all, I will actually be using a slightly different design. So as I really delved into all of the Supergirl comics, she wears this crop top and skirt quite often, actually. It's seen through a lot of different graphic novels. I've noticed that from graphic novel to graphic novel, there are some stylistic changes in her costume. So the 2019 version was based off of this reference image, which is the cover of the Supergirl Power graphic novel. There's nothing wrong with this design, I just found another one I like better. So for the remake, I'm gonna be using her design from the Death of the Family graphic novel. I honestly just like this better, like personal choice, I think it looks nicer. Okay, so first of all, the sleeves are a bit different. So in the Power version, she has just longer sleeves. In the Death of the Family version of the costume, she has these little gold gauntlet things. In the Power version, she has this really thin belt. In Death and the Family, she has a much thicker belt. And she also has these weird like bat belt things going on, and I only saw it in this particular issue of that graphic novel, but I think it looked cool, so I'm going with that. There's some smaller differences to like the neckline and the skirt length and stuff like that, but overall those are the main differences between the reference image I used before and the reference image I am using now. Let's get into our fabric. So for version 1 of this costume, I think I used like a 2-way stretch. It was pretty affordable and it wasn't a bad option. I used that same fabric for my Supergirl Rebirth cosplay as well. So this is the very, very nice Yaya Han 4-way matte stretch. It's a bit more spendy, but it'll actually be what I want and I won't have to remake this again. With the other fabric that I used, I've already noticed a little bit of pilling on my Supergirl Rebirth cosplay. That one's probably also due for a remake pretty soon here. Now another difference is the pattern I'm using. So back when I made version 1, I actually used the Simplicity bodysuit pattern. It was the first and last time I would ever use that pattern. I'm sorry, but I'm always gonna be McCall's on bodysuits. Tag yourself below in the comments, McCall's or Simplicity bodysuits. I gotta know, it could be quite the debate. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get into cutting some of this fabric. Version 2 of this costume is going to be completely lined, and I just love lining all my projects. I think it just adds to the craftsmanship and make them look really nice and clean. So I'm gonna cut this all out again, and then I'd like to sew together the lining layer and see how it fits. So here is our finished lining layer. Honestly, it looks really good. I like it. I like it a lot. The biggest difference I'm noticing is just the fabric quality. And with my previous one, it was actually quite difficult for me to get in and out of the top by myself just because it didn't have quite enough stretch, but this is just so much easier. This stretches so far, like it's ridiculous. Next is the applique. I'm not sure if I'll regret this choice or not, but I'm going with a gold instead of a yellow. There are very few good quality stretch yellows, and I felt like in the Death in the Family, like it looks more gold to me. So I'm actually gonna be using gold for the applique, and then I have the 4-way stretch mat in red. So this will be for the cape as well. So let's get into doing some satin stitching and working on the outside layer. Another difference with my new version 2 build is I'm actually ironing stuff. If you go to like any cosplayer who's been doing this for a while and are like, should you iron? They'll be like, oh yeah, you definitely should. But do you? Do you? I usually don't iron very much. A lot of that is due to my ironing setup, which is just this tiny little board, and I have to hunch over it on the ground and it hurts my back. However, I've decided that it is worth it for me to get a costume that I'm really happy with, so I'm actually ironing my costume this time. Say what you will, okay? Go on a rampage. Tell me how I'm awful because I don't iron my projects enough. Our applique is done. These fabrics are, as I predicted, much harder to work with when doing the satin stitch for the applique, just because they have so many more directions that they can stretch, and they're all stretching at the same time. So it was a bit more difficult, but I think overall it was worth it. Like, these fabrics just look so beautiful. I love the gold. I'm gonna sew everything together. I'm gonna give it all a nice top stitch for our outside layer. So here is our new outside layer for version 2. I'm pretty happy with it. I think I'm going to probably call it a day for today. That was a lot of good progress, and now I am tired. Hello everyone, I'm back for the second day of working on my Supergirl cosplay remake. And I've decided I'm only wearing Studio Ghibli inspired outfits this weekend, so I'm not taking any criticisms on that. So I'm gonna be working on the bias tape next. This is part of the costume I really did not like in the 2019 version. First of all, there really is not a good selection of stretch yellows, and the stretch yellow I used for that costume was really thin and flimsy. So I noticed that the bias just like kind of flopped around and didn't hold itself together very well. I also, for some reason, didn't own a rotary cutter. I've been sewing for like 3 years, and I only got a rotary cutter in a dress form within like the last year. But now that I have the proper tools and I have a really nice gold fabric to use, and I know how to cut and sew bias tape properly, let's see what that looks like on our remake of Supergirl. I took a little break to think, reevaluate my options, and I've decided I need to tear this up and redo it. So the thing that is bothering me, it might seem like kind of a subtle thing, but it really bothers me. So if you look at the waist, you can see there's all this space here, right? It's not very well fitted, and it has just kind of this chunky, boxy look to it. Now, I might be willing to overlook it. However, I did this same mistake on another cosplay, and that was version 1 of my Queen Bee cosplay. It had the same thing where it was very well fitted around the bust, but when it got to like my rib cage area, it just kind of flared out and looked like really boxy, and it wasn't fitted at all. And it actually bothered me so much on my Queen Bee build that I completely remade that top from scratch. So it has been historically proven that this kind of fit on a crop top will make me decide to completely redo the costume. So instead of moving on to the sleeves, what I'll be doing is, and it pains me to say this, I'll be tearing out all of the bias here. I just need to take in the side seams just like that so that it fits a bit more tighter just around this like rib cage area. And then I can put the bias back in. So I put the bias tape on the dress form, and there's like a full like 3 inches excess bias tape. So that was definitely the root of the problem, was just that I was basically stretching this out over the bias tape, and that's why it had that weird boxy shape to it. Let's sew that bias tape and then we can get back to actually working on the sleeves. The top is done. So here's how it looks with the gauntlets. The gauntlets are a bit flashy, but I kind of like it. I feel like it makes it look a lot more interesting than it does with her outfit that just has the bias along the sleeve. So I think it looks pretty cool. And even though it was such a pain to tear everything out and re-sew it, I am kind of in love with how this fits now. You can see how it just snugly kind of hugs my rib cage. Now, there really just isn't much to say about the skirt. It's literally 2 pattern pieces. I'm gonna cut this one out 4 times. I'm gonna sew like 8 seams or something. I'll have to add the belt loops, but there's nothing too crazy going on there. So I'm just gonna sew this skirt together really quick, and I'm gonna get back with you guys. Hello again. Another day, another Studio Ghibli themed outfit. I have Totoro socks on today. This skirt is done. So there's only one piece from the original 2019 cosplay that I have left to remake, and that is the belt. The belt was by far the worst piece of the 2019 build. I actually still have it. So when it came to making the belt, I did not have a yellow belt. So I decided to go into my closet and find a belt and then make it yellow. The thing is, I did not have the right paint for the job. I don't think I even had an acrylic paint, so I used a fabric paint. And using a fabric paint on like this pleather belt is so bad. It is sticky. It is sticky. Like, the 2 sides of the belt stick to each other. So, I ended up buying a new belt off of Depop. I bought this one, and it's just not the right color. So I will be making the belt gold. My current plan is to cover the belt with fabric. So I saw a really cool method for fabric covered foam. So there are cosplayers who make foam armor, and then they just take this stretchy fabric, contact cement it on, and like stretch the fabric over the foam, and it actually looks like really good. So I'm gonna take some of our stretch gold and I'm going to contact cement it onto this belt, and hopefully that works and we can have a gold belt at the end that actually looks good and isn't gross like this one. I just don't even have the words to describe how much of a hot mess this is. As you may have guessed, when I started dumping this entire bucket of contact cement on a piece of fabric, that was like not the way to go, clearly. Not only was it too much contact cement, it was so much that there's now contact cement everywhere. I'm not sure it will ever come off my fingers. In conclusion, I didn't need nearly that much contact cement, and I think it might have been smarter to do like it section at a time instead of trying to do the whole belt in one go, but that's just what I saw in the one tutorial I watched, so that's what I went with. I was gonna go to the thrift store and buy another belt and try and cover it with fabric and go a little bit lighter on the contact cement and such. And it turns out you can just buy belts with the 2 sets of belt holes and the right width and hopefully the right color. So I just bought a gold belt. Yeah, it kind of feels like giving up, but as far as cosplay goes, I very strongly believe in the idea to choose your battles. And at this point, like, you know, we're moving in the next week or 2, so whatever I don't get done now might not get done before the con. I want to wear this too. You know, the first time I made the belt for this cosplay, it was awful and sticky, and the second time it was awful and sticky, and I think I'm just ready to buy a belt that's gold. It's okay. So I'm gonna get into making the belt bag. I can still make that. Been a little while. So I actually didn't manage to finish Supergirl before we had to move. So Supergirl got packed up in a box and she sat for a few weeks and here we are at the new house. So welcome to the new craft room, new filming location, and Supergirl is finally done. So that is the remake. However, I wanted to also touch on the cape and the boot covers. When I made the crop top and skirt cosplay in 2019, I actually never made the canon cape or boots. Instead, I borrowed my Supergirl Rebirth cape and I wore a pair of red combat boots. So I'm not really sure you can call the cape or shoes a remake since I never made them originally. I just kind of borrowed pieces from other costumes, but I felt like it was at least worth mentioning in this video. So here's how the shoe looks. And I do have a tutorial coming for these boot covers, so I'm not going to get into much detail. Just be on the lookout for that tutorial coming up, hopefully next week. For the cape, there is not a tutorial coming out for this one because I have so many cape tutorials. I felt like making an additional cape tutorial would kind of flop. So the pattern I used for this was the Lucina cape pattern that I made for my Lucina cape tutorial. Please check out that tutorial if you want to know how to make a cosplay cape. I also have a tutorial for my original Supergirl cape, so those are your resources. However, I have made a modification to the attachments. So for my previous cape and cloak videos, they have snapped around the neck. And I have come to realize that's kind of a safety problem. So when I wore my Supergirl Rebirth cape, if it ever got caught in a door or something, it would just be like, you know, and I would be like getting strangled. by this cape. So this cape actually attaches with a snap. So it snaps on and off. Then if this gets caught in a door or an escalator, it will just snap off. Hopefully it should snap off on its own if there's enough force. You might be wondering where this is snapping to. I'm glad you asked. I'm actually really proud of this. Okay, so you can see that under the shirt, there's a harness. So this is a 1-inch elastic and I just covered it in the red fabric. So the cape actually snaps on to this harness that I wear underneath the shirt. So not only do I have it snapped on, so if it gets caught in an elevator, it'll just pop off. Hopefully it's also connected at my shoulders instead of at my neck. So this is the attachment method for this cape, and I'm probably going to be doing some variation of that for all my future capes and cloaks just for safety reasons. So with that being said, that is the entire costume, and it has been remade. So let's do a little side-by-side of the old costume and the new costume. Final thoughts. I'm happy with the remake. I think it looks so much better than the original one. Not just the things I've mentioned in this video, but also the seams just look a lot cleaner and straighter, and just the sewing in general is a lot cleaner because I have sewn a lot in the last 2 years. And if there's another one of my older cosplays that you would like to see reborn, then please let me know in the comments. I've already remade my Queen Bee and the Supergirl cosplay, and I believe Riku is due for a remake pretty soon here, but if there are any of my old costumes you'd like to be brought back, just let me know in the comments and I will definitely consider it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!